Hello, my name is Wes Anderson, and I've been interested in a topic concerning the integrated mathematics curriculums. As of now, I plan on doing a qualitative study on the subject, and my working title is Secondary Educator Efficacies, Pedagogy, Content Delivery, and Best Practices in the Implementation of Integrated Mathematics Curriculums. And when I say implementation, I'm really focusing on the classroom level, what goes on inside the classroom as far as the teaching of the curriculum. The purpose of this study is to research and provide theory or generalization for best practices and effective pedagogical strategies for implementing integrated mathematics at the classroom level. I am very intrigued by integrated mathematics curriculum because the idea behind the curriculum is to help students make connections between the different strands of mathematics. And from my experiences, and that's strictly as a traditional mathematics teacher, the students generally lack interest in the math that I teach. They don't fully comprehend the different domains, and they definitely struggle to see the connections between the concepts, especially between the different strands of mathematics or the different domains of math. I want this study to become a basis for theory or just generalizations about the best practices in pedagogy that help students make those connections between strands of mathematics. I believe if they are able to make the connections between strands, they will definitely help students' perception of themselves as mathematicians, and also their perception of the math class in general. My proposed research questions are qualitative in nature. I want to elicit many responses, and I want the responses to be how the participant feels. How do they or what do they perceive in each situation? My first question is, how does the perceived connectedness of topics within integrated curriculum affect teacher pedagogy and content delivery? My second question is, what practices help students make connections between strands of mathematics within the integrated mathematics curriculum? I want to know what the teachers feel about their pedagogy. I want to know what the administrators feel about the best practices. I want to know all these people, their perception of these particular items. Basically, what do the teachers, admin, and most math coaches believe should be occurring in the integrated math class to improve and or maximize student achievement? For research framework and research type, my theoretical framework is constructivism. Constructivism refers to the process in which a person takes what they already know and how they interact with the new information in order to construct or create their own perceptions, their own meaning of the material. I chose constructivism because teachers must be able to identify where students are. What are they bringing to the table? Then they must be able to grow the students into mathematicians by helping them construct their own meaning with the new information. So constructivism again, how can we help students derive meaning from the curriculum? How can we help them derive meaning from math? How can we build student prowess in number sense and connections in math? And I think integrated mathematics helps with that, and that's why it lends itself to constructivism, the perceptions of the best practices and such. Which also leads into my conceptual framework, which is the teachers, administrators, and math coaches' perceptions on best practices and pedagogy for the integrated mathematics curriculum. What do the teachers believe, what do the administrators believe, and the math coaches believe help the students learn best in this? And the research type is grounded theory. I wish to build a theory around these best practices in pedagogy to maximize student achievement in the integrated math curriculum. These will be derived from the relationship between effective teachers and the practices that they utilize. What do the coaches believe are effective, and what practices should they be utilizing? The key concepts of this study are integrated mathematics, perceptions, best practices, pedagogy, and strands of mathematics. According to J. Harlow, integrated mathematics is a curriculum pathway that combines and reorders content from Algebra 1, geometry, Algebra 2, probability and statistics into a three-course sequence. And these courses follow a logical sequence that emphasize connections between the different strands of math. The second term, perceptions, is defined by Merriam-Webster as quick, acute, and intuitive cognition. It's a capacity for comprehension. I wish to know how the students, administrators, math coaches, what is their intuition about how their students learn best and their comprehension on how to take advantage of the students' learning styles. The third term is best practices. BusinessDictionary.com defines best practices as methods or techniques that consistently show results superior to those achieved with other means, and then those are used as benchmarks. Pedagogy, according to Banerjee, is the art and science of teaching. So these two things that make up the teaching profession, how I teach, I want to know what the perceptions are regarding these two ideas. And lastly, the National Assessment of Educational Progress. The NAEP refers to strands of mathematics as the content of different mathematics, and there's 5 of these that they say. Number sense, properties, and operations are the first. Measurement is the second. The third is geometry and spatial sense. Fourth is data analysis, statistics, and probability. And lastly is algebra and functions. The integrated mathematics curriculums seek to help students understand how these strands are correlated, how they influence and enable theories and concepts in the other strands. For this study, I plan to utilize 3 different forms of data: survey, interviews, and observations. Surveys allow a large number of participants. They allow them to provide input on their perception of the curriculum, as well as the best practices, pedagogy, and content delivery styles. I plan to use Google Forms to ask the participants open-ended questions, and I expect quite a bit of feedback for this data form because the survey is quick and easy to respond to. I will take this vast amount of data and use axial coding to identify and categorize the responses by their relationship to other responses. I will use selective coding to identify which categories are most desirable to the core variables and to the study. Interviews will also be conducted after the survey. Participants in the interviews will be given the opportunity to explain their experiences within the integrated curriculum and their perceptions on how their practices and pedagogy help students grow and help them better understand mathematics in general. I will record these interviews on my iPhone recording app and also take notes in Microsoft Word. I will again use axial coding to categorize the data that I take in the recorder and in the Word document, and I will categorize that data. I will selectively code the desired categories. Lastly, I will be using observations. The observations will allow me to see constructivism at work. The teachers will provide the integrated curriculum in a multitude of formats and media. Then the students will be able to construct their own meaning. In the observations, I'll be able to see and I'll be able to identify the ways in which the students learn best. I'll see multiple ways that the teacher is attempting to reach the kids and get them to connect the mathematics strands. And I'll be able to see which ones work best. I think that observation is going to be big time for me because much of teaching cannot be easily explained. The interviews won't help that. Oftentimes the best practices are not necessarily planned. The surveys, it's not a planned thing. So how the teacher interacts and talks to the student, that makes a massive impact on how well students interact with the new information. And that kind of data is really what I'm looking for. During these observations, I will watch, listen, and take notes on Microsoft Word. I will utilize open coding when reviewing and taking my notes, and I will label the aspects of my notes in order to summarize my observation and then be able to easily reflect on the lesson afterwards. Selective coding will then be implemented to determine the importance with regards to the core variables. Wrong way. I will be using 5 different trustworthiness techniques, 4 of which are required by Carson Newman. 5 techniques I'm going to be utilizing are peer debriefing, triangulation, member checks, detailed descriptions of context, and reflexivity. Peer debriefing being the first one, that's going to help with credibility and confirmability. I will be completing this kind of trustworthiness technique in numerous intervals through the data collection and analysis portion, and it'll start after the survey is completed. Peer debriefing will take place, like I said, after each interval, in which I will have a colleague review my data and check for any inconsistencies I may have incurred and see if there's any bias so that I can change that aspect. The second technique is triangulation. Triangulation will help with dependability. I will be completing triangulation throughout the data collection and analysis portion. The use of the 3 data sources will help to pinpoint the ideal outcomes and variables. The third technique is member checks. The member checks will help with credibility, transferability, and dependability. After each section of the data collection period, the participants, especially those interviewed and observed, they'll be given a chance to read what I've written, to see my analysis, and they'll check for accuracy, give clarification, provide any kind of support that I might need or they believe that I need to change. They'll be able to do that kind of thing. They'll be able to provide that to me. The fourth and final required Carson Newman trustworthiness technique is detailed descriptions of the context. These descriptions will help with credibility and transferability. I will provide these descriptions throughout the study, and they will be specific information regarding the key terms. There'll be some data findings and analysis, but I'll be providing, it'll be sufficiently thick, so I'll be giving a good amount of this context, these descriptions of what's going on within my study. The final trustworthiness technique is reflexivity. Reflexivity will help with confirmability, and I think it's pretty integral to my study because I need to be able to reflect on my data sources. I need to be able to reflect on the analysis aspects and the general flow of the study, and that needs to happen throughout the study. I need to reflect on what's going on to make sure I'm going in the direction I want to go. I need to make sure that I'm not using any bias towards one way or the other. For participants and sampling strategies, I plan on having 25 total participants. These participants will be teachers, administrators, and math coaches. And the participants will include the entire math department at Walker Valley High School, the administrative team at Walker Valley High School, and a couple of district-level administrators. I will also be including math coaches at the high school. I chose the sample population, because Walker Valley and all of Bradley County schools in Tennessee utilize integrated mathematics curriculums and have for the past 5 years, and that's actually where I'm working this upcoming year. So I'll have a connection with these teachers to where I can talk to them, and I'll be able to be in contact with them pretty easily. In delimitations, limitations, and strengths, I believe my sampling strategy is a delimitation. I could have chosen anybody. I chose one school. And because I chose one school, I think it limits the sample. Limiting that sample to one school, it restricts the findings and subsequent theories to schools with similar demographics. I do have strengths as well. For this study, my use of well-researched methods is a strength and improves the validity and reliability of my study. Also, triangulation is a strength because I am providing numerous forms of data as well as an ample amount of the said data, and it will be collected and coded to find relationships and similarities in the responses. And I think there will be quite a few commonalities within these responses, and that will aid in the making of a theory or generalizations. The last slide is my references, and that is the end of my presentation. I hope you have gained an understanding of my study, and if you have any questions or any feedback, please feel free to leave it for me. I would love to hear any of it, and I could use some help, I'm sure, in some areas. I'm looking forward to actually completing the study. Like I've mentioned, I am very interested in the integrated curriculum and how students will benefit from such a curriculum, from the radical. It's so different from the traditional mathematics. And I think I'm looking forward to it. I also hope that you all are as well for your own dissertations. Again, I thank you for your time, and best of luck in your own studies.